Today, I want to talk about high volume training and how you can use this principle to improve your pulling strength and really any other exercise that you want. But when I say high volume training, I'm not talking about doing 15 to 20 reps of an easy exercise. So we're going to start off by defining high volume training, why it's good for you, and then how to actually implement this into your training. And at the end, we're going to talk about caveats and dangers of this kind of training. Basically just how to implement it correctly so that you don't develop tendonitis or hurt yourself by doing too much too quickly. So let's jump straight into it by defining high volume training. I look at volume over the course of an entire workout as opposed to in just one set. So instead of thinking of it like 3 sets of 15 reps, what I think is today I'm going to do 50 or 75 or 100 reps of pull-ups. Because when you're planning a workout where you're doing 15 to 20 reps, you're kind of forced to choose a lightweight so that you can actually complete all of the reps in a set. But when you're thinking about volume over an aggregate, you can choose a more challenging exercise because you can just do more sets of less reps. And with this, what's great about it is that you're really maximizing your time under tension with a challenging load. So you're not doing an endurance workout. You're doing what's more like a strength endurance workout, essentially. When choosing a variation of an exercise to do for high volume training, I typically aim for something that's like a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 difficulty. You don't want to go too easy so that you could do like 30 reps in a row of something, but you obviously don't want to choose something that's way too difficult and you're not even going to be able to get like 5 or 6 reps in. So if you can do like 5 or less pull-ups, ring rows, banded pull-ups, these are going to be perfect. And if you can do weighted pull-ups, body weight pull-ups is going to be great for this. And if you're unsure what variation is going to be good for you, feel free to leave a comment below where you're at and I can try and give you a recommendation. But I would always recommend erring on the side of an easier exercise over a harder one, because if you find that it's too easy, you can always make it more challenging later, or you can just do more reps. But if you start off too challenging too quickly, you run the risk of hurting yourself or just burning yourself out and not getting the most benefit out of the workout. So how do you actually implement this into your training then? Well, my go-to is the EMOM. It stands for every minute on the minute, but you don't have to stick to a minute. Basically, it's just every some amount of reps over some time period. My go-to workout is 7 reps every minute and a half. The number of sets usually depends on what the load is that I'm using, but one example of a workout that I did recently was 10 sets of 7 reps of bodyweight pull-ups. So that's 70 reps total over a 15-minute time period. I do want to make a quick note here. If you're more of a beginner, sticking within like the 50 to 80 rep range is probably going to be good for starting out with high volume. But if you're more intermediate advanced, you're probably going to have to do like 80 to 150 reps in order to really feel the benefit of this. Another option for high volume training is getting in as many reps as possible within some time frame. So you might say, I'm going to give myself 10 minutes to do as many bodyweight rows as I possibly can. This style is a little trickier because you have to take pacing into account. But what's really good is that you can use it to challenge yourself and you can really push your limits with it. And that can be really beneficial for breaking through plateaus. A third and very similar option is that you can set a goal number of reps to do over your workout. So you can say like, today I'm going to do 100 banded pull-ups. And then from there, you kind of have 2 options. You can either split it up by sets. So you can say, I'm going to do 10 sets of 10, or you can use it as a challenge and say, I'm going to try and do this as quickly as possible. The benefit to the second one is that you can then repeat this a couple months later and use it as a benchmark to see how much you've improved over that time period. So the warning that I need to put out is that while high volume training can be extremely beneficial and it can help you break through plateaus, it can also be dangerous and it can lead to injury. Because it's so much stress on the same muscle groups, you can develop tendonitis or lagging pains if you aren't careful. So I would recommend doing volume training 1 to 3 times per month, basically every other week. And for high volume, I would build up to it. So if you've never done 100 pull-ups before, maybe don't start with 100 pull-ups. Maybe start at like 50 or 60 and slowly work your way up. And then after you do one of these high volume sessions, just make sure that you really take time to rest your muscles afterwards. You don't want to do a high volume pulling session and then the next day go climbing or do other sorts of pulling because again, it's going to be too much stress. The other thing about this principle is that it can take a long time. If you're used to doing 3 sets of 10 reps, you're in and out of that exercise within like a couple of minutes, but doing 100 reps of pull-ups is going to take a lot longer. So you just need to make sure that you actually give yourself that time to get in all of the volume. So when I'm doing it, I usually dedicate all of my time to the high volume, and then anything that I'm able to get in afterwards is just icing on the cake. But the only thing that I really focus on and like my only priority that day is high volume. And the last thing to note, to prevent injury, make sure you're doing antagonist training and mobility and stretching. Antagonist training is basically just working an opposing muscle group. So we're talking about pull-ups here. The antagonist training of that is going to be any push exercises, push-ups, bench press, shoulder press, etc. And then mobility and stretching is going to be really critical to make sure that your body is staying fresh and recovering well from doing all of these reps. So that's all I got for you today. Let me know if you end up doing high volume training and how it works for you. And if you want to see an example of this, check out this video right over here where I do a 100 pull-up Thin-X workout that really shows the challenge behind high volume training. Thanks, guys.